coming. It's nice to see some of the veterans of this campaign and new faces as well, and especially our speakers, Dr. Kadera and Jacob. I had the pleasure of having parliamentarians a year ago with Jacob for 3 days on the question of social protection. And today I was just asked to put it very briefly in context, and I promise to cut myself short today, because the concept is not new. We've been debating it in Namibia for exactly 20 years. It started in 2002 when the Namibian government's own tax commission, in short NAMTAX, was given the task of looking at the tax system as well as ways of reducing inequality in Namibia. That was their task. How? Which interventions, in other words, would be required and useful to do it? And the report to government, by government, said, by far, the most effective intervention to reduce inequality is the introduction of a universal basic income grant. Government sat on the report, debated it, and was undecided, as so often. Then word got out to the churches, particularly the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Bishop Kameta at the time, and they felt this is a wonderful idea. Let us broaden the debate. Let us bring Namibia into this debate. And they went to different constituencies, trade unions, youth organizations, churches, women's organizations, NGOs, and said, shouldn't we all come together around this idea? And why is that so relevant, and why is it so different to everything else we have? Social protection in its traditional form is a way of looking at people who can't look after themselves. That could be people with disability. That could be children. That could be vulnerable people. And the programs therefore target particular people. But what do you do in a country, and we heard the recent figures, we've heard them several times, when it's not a small group here and there, when it's the majority of the population who suffers under poverty, when it's no more a group on the fringes that's unemployed, but when unemployment becomes the norm of Namibia's youth today. In that context, when the crisis is so huge, you cannot have a small program for this group or a small program for that. You simply miss the boat. And it was interesting that the Ministry of Poverty Eradication's own policy in 2019, the draft policy, said the targeted children's grant misses so many children in need, and therefore it must be replaced by a universal child grant. Why did they say that? It was very interesting. Because we have a universal grant. The universal old age pension reached 97% of Namibians over the age of 60. It's by far the most efficient social protection program we have. The reason is simple. You only have to prove that you have an ID and that you're over the age of 60, then you qualify. With all the other grants, you have this condition and that condition, and you need a doctor's certificate and here and there. And so many of those in need don't reach. The difference to the universal basic income grant is it is a human economic right for all. The moment you're born as a Namibian, you qualify. Mothers in the most remote areas, from Trimiopsis to Opur, to Okamatapati and wherever else, simply need to register their children with Home Affairs and they qualify. And it runs a bit against the grain of most of our economists who think to get money, you need to work for someone. We are caught in the concept of wage labor. But our labor market excludes about half the population. And an interesting figure from our own Human Development Report, 70% of wage earners in Namibia earn below 1,400 a month. So poverty wages are the norm. And in this sense, it's not only the unemployed who are poor, it's also those who have jobs. The working poor, precisely. And that is the context for a universal basic income grant. How did it progress then? after the Basic Income Grant Coalition was formed, we decided in the coalition, if we can't convince government in words, we do it practically. So we ran a basic income grant in a village of Ochivero in Omaheke region for 2 years. And all we asked people is to share with us the changes. And as Dofi mentioned, they were phenomenal in terms of employment creation, small businesses that could emerge, in terms of crime rates dropping, child malnutrition in that village dropping from 60% to 10% within 6 months of the basic income grant. So children who were malnourished, starving, could get at least sufficient nutrition. In the school results, phenomenal changes that almost all children finished school. Before that, they had a dropout rate of 40% of the children in the village. They left mainly due to hunger. They came to school when there was a bit of food available at school, and after that they dropped. So we had all those results, and we took parliamentarians to Ochivero for them to see from various parties. After that day, they were all convinced of it. Unfortunately, it didn't translate into government taking the step. The former president once in parliament said he thinks money for nothing will make people lazy. And as it often is in politics, when the chief has spoken, the Indians turn quiet. Despite 30 of them having been with us in Ochivero and seen the opposite. Then came the next president, 2015, and he announced poverty eradication. And all he didn't mention in his first State of the Nation address was the word basic income grant. But he took the chairperson of the coalition to become Minister of Poverty Eradication. They then traveled for a year to the various regions, town hall meetings, and everywhere people raised the issue, we want a basic income grant. It's in the minutes of those meetings. Still, it didn't happen. 2019 came, and the draft policy talked of a basic income grant for the unemployed between 30 and 59 years of age. Then it's an unemployment grant and not a basic income grant. And why do you leave all those out below 30 years that are also unemployed? So we objected and we said, this is not what we wanted. In the final policy, the basic income grant disappeared. And the only change they made is turning the food bank into a cash grant. So the kind of food that was given as parcels was turned into cash. That, by the president's own statement yesterday, reaches 50,000 people. And the World Bank figures are 1.6 million Namibians in need of aid. So this is the context, why this discussion is still relevant. And even in the COVID crisis, the Minister of Finance realized we need to intervene. And he introduced, unfortunately only for 3 weeks, an emergency income grant. Realizing this is an intervention that's needed. And now we're debating further, based on that and the results that we've seen, how can we now move to a basic income grant for all? And we're looking forward to the discussion. Thank you very much.